MMA Legends style tier list. Today, I'm gonna bring you guys a very accurate tier list, non-biased for MMA Legends, every style, and yeah, we're gonna go through the strengths, through the weaknesses of the pros, of the cons, and each one. Before we do though, let me just remove D tier real quick because there's absolutely no need for this because every single style so far in this game is viable, more than viable even. We're gonna start it off with Boxer. I think Boxer is C tier, and here's why. So Boxer is literally just everything balanced. It's plain fighting style, the most basic one. Everything is balanced. Balanced block, balanced health, balanced everything. No damage, counter that. Everything is just balanced. This is just a style you kind of use if you want to like see how good you would be without any style pros or cons. It is just a plain fighting style. Viable, it just works, no gimmicks, nothing special, just go ahead and fight. It's not even that bad. So overall, Boxer for now goes into C tier, and we'll see where it stays over the time. Next up we have Kickboxer. Kickboxer, we will put Kickboxer above boxing in C tier. Now here's why. Right. So Kickboxer is Boxer, but with a special trait, basically. And that trait is that your M2s slow your opponent down by 30%, making it easier to get a win by decision, because in this game, as you know, you can win by decision on timer. This style is unique. It has very good M2s. Everything else is balanced, with the exception of that for the 30% slow on M2s that you apply to your opponents for 4 seconds. In return for that ability extra, you do have weak block. So Boxer is just balanced. Kickboxer is basically Boxer, but just a little bit more advanced with a special trait. It is good. It just works. It's a basic style. It's really good. Moving on. Alright, next up we have Wrestler. I think Wrestler is our first B tier style of the list from common to uncommon styles. Wrestler does have a weaker block, but balanced stamina, balanced speed. It has a weak block and lower damage. However, you have an ability which I think is one of the best abilities in the game because it is hard to avoid, and if it lands, you can't really do anything about it. It's not like some abilities you can slip out of, like when it like grabs you, pounds you to the ground, and does a lot of damage. Other than that, it's a good style. It's based off of Khabib. If you watch UFC, you know who Khabib is. Chat, I'm sorry, it's Muay Thai. I know, I get it. Muay Thai, A tier. It has balanced stats overall, like balanced block in that. Your block is actually weaker, never mind, but you have balanced stamina. You have the flying knee ability, which is one of the best abilities, and it's the easiest to land, dealing very high damage. M2 is gimmicky. It's hard to predict. It's an elbow. It's a spin, but you like turn around, you elbow your opponent for the M2. It is a great M2. One of the best styles in the game currently, and I think it's always going to be viable. Very good style. Highly recommend using it. Next up, we have Karate. Now, Karate is a very interesting style, if you ask me, for a couple of reasons. So, it did get nerfed recently. Let's just go ahead and put it into B tier, top of B tier for now, and then I'll explain to you guys why I think, why I think it's here. So, Karate style has low damage, low guard damage, and low guard on its own. However, Karate has so much speed. I think it's definitely one of the fastest ones in the game. It's so easy to just outbox your opponent with Karate, which sounds crazy to say, but it's such a versatile style. And the ability, I think it has the highest damaging ability in the game. If you land your ability, it's like it's an ability. It's called a Minari roll. You get on the floor and you have this little circle on your screen where you fuck it out with your opponent. I'll put the footage on the screen if I find it. But overall, insanely good ability, which carries this style, and an insanely high speed. So you have very high stamina, insanely high speed, on top of an insanely good ability, which is pretty much what puts the style in B tier. The only reason why it's not on the same level as Muay Thai is because it has a little bit less health. Still an extremely viable style. As I said, all of these styles on the tier list that you see here, all are viable. Every single one is viable. Next up, we have one of the most interesting styles, in my opinion, and this style used to be shit if you ask me, but it has been buffed to the point where I'm literally going to put Sumo on top of B tier, above Karate even, and here's why. Sumo is literally a tank. It's slow, it's heavy, but it has a shit ton of health and a shit ton of resistance and does insanely high damage, right? But the thing with Sumo is you have the highest block in the game, the most strong block in the game. It's impenetrable. If you're using a style that does no guard damage like Karate, you are going to have a hard time. I'm just saying you are going to have a hard time against Sumo because you cannot penetrate that guard no matter what. Sumo also has higher health, which is another thing worth noting. You have a little bit higher health than all the other styles. However, here are the downsides. First downside is that your hitbox is, you have 1.1x bigger, so you have a bigger hitbox than usual. You're slow. You're very, very slow. And you waste a lot of stamina, and you have horrible dodging. So pros of this style are insanely high damage, insanely good block, but you do have cons that kind of balance it out, like, you know, the fact you have a larger hitbox, less stamina, you're slower, stuff like that. But overall, is Sumo viable? Definitely. Sumo's damage is the highest in the game, and in fact, all you really need is those 4 or 5 and ones you can land. Alright, next we're getting into the legendary styles for the game. We have Dizzy Fist. Dizzy Fist, in my opinion, is going to go below Muay Thai a little bit. Now, Dizzy Fist is basically, the description is drunk Rock Lee from Naruto. So look, this style gimmick, the gimmick of this style is the insane unpredictability factor. Like, this style has such wild and unpredictable M1s, and your M2 is a literal cartwheel. You have weak block, your damage, you have everything else balanced. Stamina is balanced, damage is okay, but your block is slightly weaker. Your speed also isn't the best, and your guard damage isn't the best. But as I said, this thing about this style is just, it's gimmicky because of the unique animation, and it's very hard to predict. The M2 is insanely hard to predict, and this style is just ruthless in terms of stamina and everything. This style is something you use if you really just want to be annoying. I would say it's like the equivalent of... So, it's just a really good style overall. I like Dizzy Fist, but it is not as good. Next up, we have the Irish style. Irish style is based off of Conor McGregor. As you all know, it should be pretty obvious by the stance, the modified karate stance or whatever. Here's the thing with Irish. You have insane reach, insanely high counter damage, and your first M1 is also has insanely good reach. Insane speed, insanely high counter damage. But yeah, the thing about this style, it has a gimmick where when you emote or perfect dodge, your ultimate charges up faster. So it's kind of like a toxic hockey style. However, the thing that keeps this style from S tier for me is the fact that you do no block damage, right? But your M2s are so good. So if you all watch UFC, you watch Conor McGregor, you know Conor McGregor has the little kick where he switches the side of the kick. He will start with a right, turn it to a left, and just land it constantly. So it's a switch kick. It's a switch kick essentially, and that's your M2. Because you dodge to one side, because you see the leg is on one side, so you dodge and you just get hit from the other, because that was the actual kick. Only weaknesses, you kind of lack damage normally, and you lack guard break, which is why this style isn't quite an S tier, but it is still a great style nonetheless. Next up, we have Dempsey. Now, Dempsey, as you know, is based off of Hajime no Ippo. That's we all know already. Alright, so here's the thing with Dempsey. The Dempsey is everything you can imagine. What would you get from Ippo? You get insanely high damage, insanely high guard break, but essentially what you really have here is just Ippo. It's a cannon. You do take increased counter damage in this style, and you do have a little bit less stamina than other styles. I don't know, it just kind of made sense for it to have less stamina with all the upsides that it has. Dempsey has high damage. The ability is the Gazelle Punch, which is really strong and does do a lot of damage. As if you don't know what the Gazelle Punch is, it's the uppercut that hard. The reason why it's not above Muay Thai is because it's kind of slow. That's the thing, it is kind of slow, and it is easy to run out of stamina with it. It really is. And the M2 is kind of predictable because it's just an uppercut overall, so it's kind of easy to dodge and avoid. But other than that, Dempsey's good. Dempsey works. It does a lot of damage, a lot of guard break. Yeah, overall pretty good style. Next up, we have the Mythic style. So first style on the list that we do have is Flow, which is, if you can't already tell, it's based off of Garo from One Punch Man. So with Flow, you do have smaller damage, slightly smaller damage, and smaller counter damage with a weaker block. But what you have in return is insanely high speed, and you can dodge pretty much endlessly with this style, meaning that it has such high iframe window for dodging, and it wastes little to no stamina. So your mobility and your speed are kind of the thing that you rely on with this style until you use your ability slash ultimate. The ultimate on this style is a two-part ultimate. It is first part of the ultimate puts you into rage mode, where you get pretty decent, actually pretty high stat buffs. You do like double damage, double everything pretty much. It's really good. Your block also goes up, I think. So you have this first part of the ultimate, which you charge up your actual ultimate, So while in rage mode, you charge up your actual ultimate, which is called Pulverize Smash, and it's the Garo. I don't know what the reference exactly, but it's a Garo beatdown scene, which is your actual ultimate, does 25% of damage like every other ultimate. But the thing that really puts Garo above everything else so far is the fact that, you know, that it has a two-part, and rage mode is really, really, really good. And just the speed is insane on this style. It's actually crazy. So S tier for now. Next up, we have Limitless. Limitless, if you ask me, is going to be below, actually above Garo. Right, and here's why. Basically, Gojo. Right? You all know the Gojo versus Miguel beatdown scene. That is what your M1s and M2s are based off of that beatdown that Gojo did. I think some of the fastest, and you have the most stamina in the game. So this style is the highest stamina style in the game. No other style in this game so far has more stamina than this. You basically have limitless stamina on this style. Insanely fast M1s. But then there's the obvious trade-off. Your damage isn't very high. It's really not. And it's just not. And you have little to no guard break. But you can do like 11 M1s in the string, which is actually crazy. 10 to 11 M1s. Very, very, very good. And the M2 on this thing is my favorite thing in the world, because it's like a spin back kick. Spinning back kick, you like spin around and you do a back kick. It's so hard to predict, and it's so easy to land on your opponent and trick them into dodging. It's crazy. It does have insanely low damage, so you do require a lot of hits and a lot of combo to actually do some damage. You get out damaged by other styles. But you know, there's also the ability which is called Counter, which currently only teleports you behind your opponent, so allowing you to extend your combo. It is still being worked on though. It will allow you to stun your opponent, I believe, or counter them with a move, and then, you know, extend your. Overall, Limitless is a great style if you use it right. It's literally just outboxing your opponent with the amount of with the volume of punches you throw. Just throwing more punches than your opponent, really. Because it also wastes very little stamina when dodging, so that's something to keep in mind. And for the final style, for my personal favorite style in the game, we have Grappler, which is, if you also ask me, currently the best style in the game, and I'll get into why right now. So look, Grappler is based off of Baki. In case you don't know, you know the Baki scene where he fights that dude with the whipping strikes, whatever. Basically, it's based off of Baki, right? So you have everything balanced except for the fact that you do insanely high damage. Well, not insanely. You do high damage that you have decent speed, right? So you have average speed, average block, average stamina consumption, average dodges, but you get insanely good damage and insanely good guard break, which I believe is like my perfect ideal type of style. Like, it's not that fast, honestly. You get outsped by pretty much most styles, but if you do get your combo going with the start of a counter, you do so much damage with this. It's actually crazy. M2 also, like, it's like 10% of health, 12 if you counter. I don't know the exact stats, but you also have the ability, which is like a Whiplash Barrage. It's not that good, but it has a wide hitbox, so it's relatively easy to land. The ultimate is also one of the coolest things in the game, so that's that. Alright, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Let me know how you feel about this in the comments down below, and yeah, let me know how you're liking the new game. Thank you for watching, and goodbye, chat.